Hi, this is Scott. I'm going to show you a few unique features of the Snake River guitar amp. And this is a version that I never released. I sold some amps earlier that were more or less copies of the AC30 style amp, but I actually developed this design over the course of several years and never got around to releasing this one, and I don't make these commercial anymore, just really do it for my own hobby. But one nice thing about the chassis on this is that you can pull out the chassis and sit it on a workbench like this and access everything really easily if you needed to work on your amp, or if you like to tweak the preamp or something like that. It's really convenient to do. It'll sit there, it'll balance right at the edge of the workbench. If you tilt it up on its side, it will also balance that way, so you have access to really everything. Because the tubes sit sort of like in an old Fender amp where they hang down in the back of the amplifier, because the heat would rise from these, I actually put a little fan up here, and you can see this. There's a little filter in this fan so that the air that goes through and cools off the components here is filtered from the dust that might be blowing through the amp. So I've been running this one for a couple of years, and there's no dust buildup. And there's a little outflow vent right here, so that you can have a nice cross current to keep the components cool. There are a couple of big resistors, so if you playing around with different tubes and different power tube configurations, you can drop the voltage from the B+ power supply if you like. One other unique feature is that each of the EL84 power tubes has its own resistor and capacitor as far as the cathode biasing goes. This allows you to, if you want to, remove two of the tubes like I've done here. And if you switch the impedance selector so that you would switch it to 8 ohms if you're only running 2 tubes, even though you're still driving a 16 ohm load, and the impedance would be correct and the amp would still sound right. The capacitor for the preamp section's right here, right by the inputs. The filter capacitor for the output tubes is right there, close to the outputs, and I've used some thin bus wire and just run all the preamp section along the grounding of that along that bus wire, and there's almost no hum from this amp. It's really quiet. Anyway, this sits on a shelf. Everything's bolted down and balanced here, and I can just take this and put it into the back of the amplifier there, and it's held into place with these 5 bolts there, so everything's very coupled very tightly and there's no rattling. The other advantage of being able to access the tubes is that you don't have to take your amp apart to change tubes. You know, you could just reach, when this is installed here, just reach down here and change the tubes without having to open up the amp. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the little tour of the amplifier. And in a little bit I'll do a comparison of some different output transformers.